In this tutorial, we are going to talk about ways to define paths for the indicators. Procedural arrows and selections use arrow paths to define the path they're going to take. To create an arrow path, press the right mouse button, create, Togabyte, procedural library, PathArrays. Currently, there are three path arrays available: Bezier path array, custom path array, and circular path array. The circular path array is just a simple path array in the shape of a circle. It has its radius and the level of detail. There are three obstacle check options: none, parallel, and projection. None is the standard calculation of the path. The parallel option will project the path using the obstacle check direction. It will use the obstacle layer to project on all objects that are included in this layer. For example, if we choose everything and we choose the obstacle check direction, the path will be projected downwards on every object. Distance from ground determines the distance the path will be offset after it is projected. Closed paths will close the path in case of paths that can be open and closed. Counterclockwise will reverse the order of the path into a counterclockwise motion. Another path is the custom path array. It is composed of list of points. You can add the points using the editor, and you can edit the points in space. The level of detail along path will add additional points between each point. Between two points, you can split the point by clicking the split line button, and it will create a point between the 2 points. Delete point will remove the point from the path. Another path array is the Bezier path array. Bezier path array can also add points, and each point has two Bezier control points. You can define any curve using these points. Each curve can be split into two using the split curve button. Each point has three modes: free, which enables different control point alignments; aligned, which will align the points; and mirror, which will mirror the points. The difference between mirror and align is that the points will be the same, and with aligned, only the angle will be the same. Arrow path and tip require the template primitive shape option. This option requires a list of all the shape that will be used in the path generation. To create this list, click the right mouse button, create, Togabyte, procedural library, primitives, and primitive list. This primitive list requires all the shapes that will be used in the list. To create these shapes, use the create button, Togabyte, procedural library, primitives, and choose the primitive you want to use. The basic primitives that are available are circle primitive, plane primitive, and custom poly primitive. Circle primitive will basically create a circle which can have a different number of vertices along its path, and it can be split into sectors. Second primitive, the plane primitive, is a square with adjustable level of detail along its width and length. And the third is the custom primitive. Custom poly primitive. Custom poly primitive can define the shape using the control points. If you click on the line, you'll create a new control point. To remove a point, shift-click it. Add the primitives you want to use. Primitives that are also available are the 3D primitives or 3D meshes, and they follow the same principle as the primitive list. For example, create the meshes list, add the number of objects you're going to use, and create a 3D object. The objects available are the custom mesh object, sphere object, and winged arrow mesh object. Sphere objects will create a sphere which has an adjustable level of detail and a radius. Winged arrow mesh will create a mini arrow which has adjustable edges, its frontal part, left and right paths and their widths. The width is also adjustable at the start and end of the arrow. The custom mesh object enables setting any mesh that is an asset, and it converts it into a procedural mesh that can be used by arrow paths and arrow tips. This concludes this tutorial. Next tutorial is how to edit the arrow tips.